All right, welcome back to another Uniquely Average podcast. I'm Chris,
I'm James.
I'm Nick.
and then today we're going to look over the ESPN average rank of position for players that's being drafted currently. Um, it's broken down to a normal 12-team draft, and it's PPR. So we're just gonna kind of go round by round and just look at the players and see if they're being drafted too high, too low, and what everybody thinks on the people.
Yeah, kind of just see who we agree on, who we don't agree on, who we think should get drafted higher or lower, that kind of stuff.
So we're going to start with James here, and we're going to start in round one of the average draft position through ESPN for a 12-team league.
All right.
Is there somebody you're seeing is too high or too low, anything like that for the list?
I wouldn't say that there's anyone too high or too low. I kind of agree with. It doesn't surprise me that the first 12 going are those specific 12. I guess the one surprising one to me is Saquon Barkley. Him being a rookie, I think that's kind of high, considering he's never played a single snap in an NFL game besides preseason. I know he's doing fairly well in the preseason so far, but to put him, top 6 in a PPR league, if it works out and you draft him there and he puts up the season that he has the potential to put up, it'll probably pan out pretty well for you. But if he has the season that he could potentially have where he doesn't live up to expectations, with Eli Manning being the quarterback there, that's obviously a shaky situation. I think the Giants are pretty good overall. A lot of people have them doing not fairly well in the season, so we'll have to see how that goes. But
yeah, I get what you're saying though. Like putting him above Alvin Kamara from New Orleans is kind of shocking for a rookie to be placed there, I guess.
right, and Kamara had an extremely good season last season, and I think that he probably won't quite have the season he did last season. But he did. He was one of 2 receivers last season with 750 receiving yards to go along with a decent amount of rushing yards. And that's kind of what the running back is turning into, is a little bit more of a receiving back. So there's definitely a lot of points there.
Well, I was shocked to see that. I believe New Orleans was in the top 5 for rushing last year already. So, I like it. I like that player. So I was kind of shocked that a rookie would go above that.
Right. What about you, Nick? How do you feel on that?
And again, we're talking about the first round here, so all these guys are going to return value. But now we're trying to separate the best from the best. And when we actually talked about doing this, we were supposed to say, one who's not producing, one who is going to produce better. And that time I couldn't do that. I looked at the list, and off the first of the list, the guys that I'm saying is going to produce less than what's expected. Again, I agree with you. Saquon Barkley was one, and Odell Beckham was the other. And what do both of those two have in common? Exactly what you said. They're both tied to Eli Manning.
Exactly.
I just cannot take my first round draft pick and tie it to Eli Manning. It's just too risky, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree. It's definitely a risk, and a lot of people are saying, Odell, he's trying to get that contract. He's coming off that injury. He's got something to prove. A lot of people are projecting him 1,500 receiving yards, and I'm not saying that's out of the realm of possibility. It definitely is, but at the same time, we have to look at who the quarterback is, and Eli Manning did not have a good season last season, and truthfully hasn't really had a good season in the last couple seasons, and is probably towards the end of his career here. So, like you said, tying your number 1 draft pick to Eli Manning is an extreme risk that I would definitely not personally go with.
I agree totally. Again, the word is in the industry, you cannot win your draft in round 1, but you can lose it. So
I would say that's an extremely fair statement.
And Leonard Fournette at 12, personally, I have him at 7. I'm drafting 8 this year, as we said in the earlier podcast. I am hoping that I get Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette faced the most 8-man bosses last year and still produced. So, that's like worst case scenario. And if we can somehow get Blake Bortles to be what he was the last 4 games of the year last year, throughout the season, I can see him really blossoming into those top 4 or 5 running backs.
Yeah, I would say of the 12 there, Fournette probably has the biggest potential to exceed expectations. I feel like the rest of the guys on that list are, probably going to, they always perform. You got Le'Veon Bell, Todd Gurley, they're going to get their numbers. But I think Fournette, if you can get him low enough in the top 10, maybe, like you said, if you can get him at 8, I think that's an insanely good pick. You made some very good points, him facing the most 8-man boxes. I mean, I think he has the potential, if Blake Bortles plays well and their offense gets things going, to be a top 4, top 5 player easily. And I think that it'll be interesting to see how he does perform. Hopefully you can get him at 8. I think that'd be a steal for you if you can.
Yeah, I like that as well. I think it's Jacksonville had the number 1 draft run offense last year, and like Nick said, if Bortles can just play a little bit better, kind of like he did on the end of the year, it'd be a pretty good pick there at 8 for sure. We're going to move on to the second round now, though, for the average draft picks. What are you liking or disliking here, Nick?
Well, let's go with the dislike. The dislike here, for me, is Mike Evans. At the end, if you draft Mike Evans at the end of the year and you look at his total numbers, you're going to be like, hey, that was a pretty good year. And you would actually be happy with it if you looked at it at the beginning of the year and said, that's what I'll get. The problem with Mike Evans for me is consistency. Mike Evans will give you a 5-point week, and he'll follow it up with a 25. So
A whack-a-mole, right? Is that what they call it? What do you?
I prefer the players who give me 15 points both weeks, and maybe I can go 2-0.
Right. How'd you feel about Devontae Freeman at 19 average? For me personally, that seems kind of high.
Yeah, I don't like Devontae Freeman at 19. The share load between him and Kevin Coleman makes his high side very. It makes it he cannot be that. He's not going to be a cowbell, and to pick him in round 2 is just too high for me. I never have Devontae Freeman on my team.
The second round seems high for somebody that's going to share the load with another big running back. So
Yeah, I mean
that's what startled me about the second round.
That definitely surprises me with how high that he's been going. I mean, he's got some upside, but like you said, he shares a lot of the carries with Coleman, so he just isn't going to get you the same kind of points that a number 1 back on another team might get you. Who would you say is your favorite player projected in that round?
Well, he's just 13, so it's pretty easy. That's Kevin Coleman because he's another bell cow back. And in the first 2 rounds, if you do not get your running back this year, you will not have a bell cow. They dry up very quickly. Round 2 is where they're gone. Christian McCaffrey is like the bottom of the running backs that I like, and he's also round 217. And after him, then I've completely switched over, and now I'm going to the wide receivers, where then I like getting Devontae Adams, get the piece of that Green Bay offense.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm from Wisconsin, so I'm obviously a fan of Devontae Adams, but I think he, with a healthy Aaron Rodgers, is going to have a really good season. And, us having a tight end finally will hopefully help alleviate some of the pressure drawn to Adams, and hopefully will open him up a little bit more. As long as Cobb can stay healthy as well to kind of help spread the field. I think Adams could have a really good season. And I think in the second round, if you can get him towards the bottom, even honestly anywhere in the second round, I would take him. Probably with my second round pick for sure.
It doesn't worry either of you a little bit with Adams, the addition of a Jimmy Graham, who's like most likely going to take all those red zone targets away? Or is that just something like nothing either of you are concerned about?
I think that Jimmy Graham will take red zone targets away in close, but not from 20 yards out. And I understand the love for Jimmy Graham pairing up with with Aaron Rodgers, but Green Bay Packers tight end does not fare well, even with Aaron Rodgers. Even with Finley when he was there before.
I'll give you that. Right. Tight ends have definitely not fared well in Green Bay, for sure. I think that it'll be interesting to see how it works out as the season progresses. To kind of touch on Chris's point of like, does it worry me at all with us having him for the red zone touches? I mean, Aaron Rodgers loves to air that ball out. So, truthfully, it doesn't concern me a whole lot because I think, Aaron Rodgers and Adams, I mean, they're going to be that vertical dagger, I guess you could say. I think that when they throw the long ball, he's obviously going to be looking to go to Adams. And I think that, they have the potential to do really well.
No, I get that. All right, so yeah, I was just curious if either of you were concerned with his production dropping at all, but so good second round value there. So moving on to the third round real fast. Anything you want to comment on here, James? I do see in the third round is when the first QB is taken averagely with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I personally would be looking to get a quarterback quite yet in the third round. Um, a player that I kind of really like would be actually. Why don't I start with a player that I don't like in that round? Um, I'm not a big fan of Amari Cooper personally in this round. I think it's a little high for him. I don't think he's gonna have a crazy season. I don't really see Oakland being that good personally. I know they have the potential to be good. I just don't see them doing very well. So he's being drafted towards the end of the third round. I don't know if I would take him quite that high though. I think I'd maybe in the fourth, probably a fifth round pick personally. But I really do like Stefan Diggs. I think that he has the potential to do really well as long as Cousins can stay healthy and they can stay healthy as a team, which they had a really healthy season last season for the most part. So it is a little bit of a nerve thing for me. I think that they're going to end up with a decent amount of injuries this season. I think it's very unlikely that you go 2 seasons in a row with having few injuries. So we'll see. But that's probably my favorite player for that round, and I think where he's getting drafted, I think that's a good spot for him. What do you feel, Nick? Do you agree, disagree? What are you thinking on that?
Well, this is one time I want to just second everything you just said. I despise Amari Cooper in that round. Aside from all the drops and stuff that we had last year, Pro Football Focus has him listed as a minus 14 out of 16 weeks with the quarterback that he'll have to face this coming year. So that is draft pick. He's undraftable for us.
Yeah, no, I definitely think he's undraftable, right? Especially in the third round. I would never take him in the third round.
I love Stephon Diggs, so I agree completely with what you said there. I also like Adam Thielen, but not as much as Stephon Diggs. And Thielen's going before Stephon Diggs, which I would not do it that way.
Yeah, I'd agree on that.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to it is Jared McKinnon's way too high on this though.
Yeah, no, I guess I didn't even think about that. I don't know why anyone would take him right there. I don't see him being as much value there. I definitely would see him more in the fourth, probably the fifth round, I guess, to be honest with you. Looking at this list, he's not.
Yeah, I agree with you completely.
He's not quite with the running backs that are still left. I don't know that I would take him there at all, to be honest. But
yeah, he's going ahead of quite a few running backs, actually.
Yeah.
See, that's what happens when if we go back to the first round and we talk about, Antonio Brown versus Leonard Fournette at 7 or 8, and I would take Leonard Fournette over Antonio Brown. And the initial question comes back, so you think Leonard Fournette is better than Antonio Brown. That is absolutely not correct. Antonio Brown is a much better fantasy player than Leonard Fournette. But if you do not get your running backs early, the drop-off is a cliff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's a lot more decent receivers than there are decent running backs. So I definitely have to agree with you on that. I think you nailed it on the head, to be honest with you. Obviously, Antonio Brown's better than Fournette, but like you said, after Fournette, actually not after Fournette. Let's go with after McCaffrey. There really isn't too many A plus or A quality running backs left. So, like you said, you got to get your running backs early. If you don't get a good running back, you can kind of kiss your chances of winning your league goodbye. To be honest, with how running back driven these leagues tend to be nowadays, especially with the fact that running backs have been catching the more and more passes out of the backfield, and getting these receiving yards and stuff like that in a PPR league. They're too pivotal not to get a good one.
Yeah, I agree with that. You want to get the big back early. You don't take the huge stud receiver because you can find other suitable starting wide receivers throughout the draft later on. Where when it comes back to the running backs, if you're not getting one of those top 10 or whatever, it's just you missed your chance pretty much.
No, exactly.
So, but we're gonna move it on to the fourth round here, and one thing that kind of want to get your guys' opinion on because I'm not a huge fan of him. Allen Robinson in the fourth round with Chicago now. How do you feel about that, Dad?
I am not a fan.
Yeah.
I mean, I just looked at it, and I guess the problem is once we again we go back to the quarterback. I'm not a Trubisky fan.
Yeah, not at all.
He's anybody.
I think he's a work in progress, and if I'm going to take a Chicago player, then I'm going to take Trey Burton, the tight end, because I think preseason game, 6 passes he threw, 4 of them went to Trey Burton to the tight end. He's going to check down, he's going to dump off.
Yeah, I mean, I personally definitely would not take Allen Robinson 39, where he gets drafted potentially in this, based off of this, for all the reasons that you said, especially the fact that the quarterback himself, I mean, I'm not 100% sure on this stat, but I'm pretty sure I read that he hasn't even thrown 2 touchdown passes in a single game for his career. So, with that being said, I mean, you're not looking at touchdowns. He doesn't throw for an overwhelming amount of yards. So, really, I mean, I don't think there's much upside there. But, again, I mean, he could end up having some breakout season. I personally don't see it with the quarterback.
And overall, this round is one of the rounds that I'm actually willing to go somewhere else. I mean, you try to always pick a guy where he's valued at, and you try to get somebody in that area.
Right.
This round, I feel like going outside the norm. I go pick somebody else.
Right.
I'm not in love with anybody in this round.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this round, I mean, there's definitely no one I see that's like a standout to me. I'm a little surprised seeing Josh Gordon that high up on the list. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a fantastic receiver when he plays. He'll get you yards, he'll get you touchdowns. And he definitely knows what he's doing, but he's got all those, off the field issues that he's been dealing with. And, now that they have Jarvis Landry, I mean, is he going to be as much of a target? I would say that with Jarvis Landry, them getting him into free agency, I would assume that he's going to be more of their number one option. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. What do you feel about Josh Gordon, Nick?
I couldn't agree with you more unless we went farther, because I think Josh Gordon is the most overdrafted person of all of them.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure I would take Josh Gordon in the 8th round. I have no confidence in him whatsoever.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I was going to say personally, I don't know if I would.
Can have a meltdown tonight and be out of the league tomorrow.
Oh, easily. I mean, and he's very close to it. I know he just went through some drug rehab program, and he's supposed to be on a sobriety path now, and I hope that happens for him, because I do really like him as a receiver. I think he is tremendously good. I think he is a Julio Jones type. He can catch the ball, has really good hands. But where he's being drafted just makes sense to me personally. With the off the field issues and just the overall risk factor of it, you can find better players. And you may have to reach on a player, but it's a huge reach taking Josh Gordon right there. I don't think I would do it at all, to be honest.
Yeah, I get all that. Yeah, I'm kind of shocked that he's going in the fourth. To be honest with you, I mean, been out of the league as long with all the off the field issues. It seems like something that would be waited on until the eighth round or later. But hey, if someone else is going to take him in the draft, it just opens up a better spot for other people. So, but what was that?
I think he said exactly.
Oh.
And you got to understand, that's Josh Gordon going in the fourth round when he hadn't even reported to camp for 3 weeks.
Yep.
Now he's reported, that number's going up.
He might not even start like the first couple weeks. I know I heard something that the coach said for sure he's going to play, and that doesn't surprise me that he's going to play, but you also have to get him to that point where he's ready to play, and I mean, who knows how many weeks that could take. Maybe we'll see him week 1, maybe we won't.
He'll be rusty regardless, though.
I would agree. I mean, it's tough to not play for so long and then come back and be
He'll never be what he was that one year.
Exactly.
And people just got to get over that. I mean, I can't even remember the year now, but he had the one huge breakout year.
I want to say maybe 2014.
I was going
to be honest with you.
Yeah, I thought it was like 2012 to 2014ish.
One
I
of those.
Remember,
yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, people want to live off that. Go ahead.
Right.
But,
how do you feel about Juju Smith?
Oh, I like Juju Smith. I actually like him a lot. I have a hard time taking him in the fourth round, though. I will, because he's a number 2 receiver. He's going to be second to Antonio Brown. There's no doubt about that.
Absolutely.
But times when the draft falls exactly right, I take him in the fourth round. But I will be honest, I pass on him more than I take him. But I do like him a lot.
You think he's more of like a fifth round value?
Exactly. That's exactly what I would love to get him.
Yeah, if he falls to the 5th round, I don't think you could pass on him. I think 4th round is a little high for him, being a second receiver. But looking at the quarterback situation, when you have a Ben Roethlisberger throwing to you, I think that gives you a little bit more confidence with it.
Well, they're the third pass offensive team last year too. So I mean, all the balls aren't going to go to Antonio Brown.
That's just it. I mean, everyone knows Antonio Brown's going to get his probably 10 catches, however many yards, and a touchdown or 2. But they throw the ball quite a bit, so somebody else has to get some of the receptions. But a 5th round, I think in the 5th round, if you can get him in the 5th round, I don't see a way of you really passing on him. I think you have to take him at that point.
Speaking of the 5th round, actually, moving on to it, for me personally, I like Greg Olsen a lot here in the 5th round. He's actually one of my top tight ends. I know he's ranked like the 4th best, but I do like his value in the 5th round. And then you're also not having to take a Gronk, which I believe is going in like the 2nd round, and you never know if he's going to play 16 games or not anyway. But I like Greg Olsen's value in the 5th round.
I'd agree. I like Greg Olsen. I think he's notorious for doing fairly well. My big thing is I don't know how much I trust Cam Newton as a quarterback. He's had good seasons, don't get me wrong. And now they have a quarterback coach there. So hopefully that, he'll get his kind of throwing and everything figured out. He's got good upside. There's games where he'll throw and he'll have like a 115 passer rating, 120 passer rating. But then there's games where he'll go out and throw a 70 or an 80 passer rating game. And he's a little streaky for me. And I think anytime you're looking at a receiver or a tight end, you have to kind of look at the quarterback. But every year he ends up having a good season, so I think he's a pretty safe pick for the most part. And they really don't have that great of receivers, in my opinion, so he's going to get a lot of the receptions and definitely the red zone touches for sure. I don't know if you agree with any of that, Nick, but
no, I agree with all of it. And this is round where, for me, the draft starts to come to me. The first 4 rounds, every guy was this guy or this guy or this guy. And it's all depending on who's taking what before me. This round is where I start to, they actually reach for someone. And I don't mind getting Greg Olsen here. This is also a round where I'll actually start looking at the quarterback. The first 4 rounds, I will not look at the quarterback at all. I will only look at quarterback here the best ones are still there. Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Deshaun Watson. Then I'll start thinking in that area.
It looks like Deshaun Watson's been falling to the fifth.
Yeah, and otherwise I'm going to do what you exactly what you said. I'm going to take Greg Olson, or I'm going to take a Chris Hogan. Am I a Chris Hogan lover? No, but I like Chris Hogan a lot with Julian Edelman suspension for one game. Tom Brady's got to throw his pass to somebody.
Right, he can't just throw it to Gronk. I mean, obviously, like we said about the tight end situation, I mean, I feel like your tight end's going to get their catches, and especially Gronk, he'll get his, but you have to throw it to somebody else. And if Edelman's suspended, I mean, they really don't have another really good receiver besides Hogan. I think Hogan has a lot of upside, and who knows, maybe the first 4 games he does really well, and then towards the rest of the season, Brady starts to trust him a little bit more than Edelman, and he gets more of the receptions and some of the touchdown throws. I think Hogan's a really good pick there. I also agree with you that I might start looking at a quarterback 5th round. It's interesting to hear you say you like Deshaun Watson. I'm a big fan of Deshaun Watson. I think he did just outrageously amazing his last season before getting injured. And I'm hearing a lot of comparisons to him being like a potential really top of the line quarterback, maybe a top 5 quarterback in the league in the next couple of years. Do you see that same kind of potential out of him? Is that why you would take him in the 5th round, or do you just see him as a valuable he'll get you your points?
No, I see him as possibly the number 1 quarterback in the league. I mean that's your ceiling there. And when you're 4, I think it's like 5. So I was a little worried after the injury. Was it going to be an RG3 thing where we were really good, we got hurt, we came back and we were terrible? But so far in preseason, he's been as advertised as when we won last year. He looks like he's ready to go week 1. I'm full in on Deshaun Watson.
Okay. I mean, I would agree. I think if he's there in the 5th round, it's I don't even think it's much of a risk. I think you have to take him in the 5th round there. I guess you said you would reach on somebody. Would that be who you would kind of reach on, or is there another player you would reach on in the 5th round?
No, for me that would be a reach. I never take a quarterback in the 5th round. An 8th round quarterback for me is very early. So taking Deshaun Watson in the 5th round that shows how much I like him.
Right. I guess one player that I really have to say I don't like in this round would be Alshon Jeffrey. I'm hearing he might not play the first 6 games of the season. So for him to be getting picked that high, kind of that whole Josh Gordon situation. I mean, there's a lot of risk there, and I don't know if the reward is quite as high. But how do you feel on him?
I concur completely. I don't want to take a guy in the 5th round that I'm not sure not to start being on the pup list. And it's getting to where it sounds more and more like he might. And if he doesn't, they're saying he's not going to play the first 2 weeks for sure.
Right.
So, yeah,
I'm not a big fan of taking players that I know aren't going to play in the first couple of games. I know a lot of people were like big fans of taking Brady still when he was suspended 4 games, and I know that ended up working out really well for a lot of people. But I'm not a big fan of taking players that are either suspended or I know are injured. I feel like sometimes when you're coming back from a suspension or an injury, it takes you a couple of weeks to get back to your normal playing capabilities. So I might not get you for 6-7 weeks at your prime, and by then I could, already be in the hole. So
You could already be out of it
Right.
at that point by the time you get him back.
I'm a little more okay with doing suspended guys because when you come back, you're you.
right, you're not off an injury or something.
So when you're injured, okay, my number 1 quarterback drafted last year was Andrew, and the word was he might not play week 1, and he never played a game last year.
Yep.
I don't like dealing with injuries.
Yeah, I mean, injuries are tough, definitely, especially when it's one of those things where it's like you're not sure when they're going to come back. It might be 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever the case might be. So I'd have to agree with you on that.
Well, one small little hiccup can just derail the whole. I mean, just look at baseball. Somebody goes down, they should be up in no time, and then next thing you know, they're back on a rehab assignment. Like, you
Right.
thought they were going to be up pitching or something. So,
Right.
but moving on to the 6th round, there was a couple things that kind of surprised me in the 6th round. I could be wrong, but you guys will let me know. I kind of think this is kind of high for Carson Wentz to be going. Also, back with the injury thing as well. And then also, I know that this is based off mock drafts and actual drafts that have taken place up to this point. It's August 22nd, but I think the 6th round is extremely high for the Jacksonville defense.
I'll let Nick touch on that first. I definitely have some things to say about that, though.
Carson Wentz there's no way I can take Carson Wentz. So you're correct on that because I don't know if he can play week 1. So that means I have to draft another quarterback, which means I have to use up another one of the spots on my roster for a quarterback, and I can only play one. And I hate that.
I think word is Foles is the starter week 1, regardless.
Yeah, I was hearing some rumors that Wentz could potentially start week 1. They had that little bit of a scare with Foles, so they were a little nervous on that, but now it's for sure that he's good and he'll play. I'd have to agree with you 100% on that, though. With him not potentially playing week 1 and having to draft another quarterback, I cannot stand doing that either. To have to waste another pick on a quarterback that you're literally going to play for 1 week, maybe 2 weeks, and then they're not going to play the rest of your season, except for maybe on a bye week. Which I don't know about you personally. When it comes to bye weeks, I'll just usually just pick up a quarterback that I know is going to start and run with it. But touching on the defense, I think that's an extreme reach for a defense. No matter how good the defense performs, I think the 6th round is outrageously high.
You're still drafting starters.
Oh, absolutely.
Like in the 6th round.
There's still so much talent still on the board for you to take a defense is in the 6th round is just way too high for me. I personally don't like taking the defense in the first 10 rounds, really. I'll reach maybe if there's a really good defense. And I mean, I'm not saying their defense isn't good, but I don't think it's going to be as good as it was last year, but we'll see. How do you feel on that, Nick?
Yeah, defense is the least. When we set up what we believe the next year's performance is going to be, defense is the least one that we can come up with the right answer. The number 1 defense from last year is the number 1 defense from next year, like 10% of the time. So, yes, Jacksonville was the best defense last year. The chances of being the best defense this year is very low. And it's very key specific. And it's so very hard to predict.
And I feel like
interception return for touchdown.
Right.
Very difficult.
Right, and I feel like I might be wrong on this, but I feel like a lot of people are fans of the Jaguar defense solely because of like Jalen Ramsey. And the guy is an insane corner, don't get me wrong. I think he's extremely talented. But again, one player doesn't make the defense, and I know there's other players on their defense that are good. I'm not saying that it's just him, but I feel like he gets the most attention from that team. And I feel like he talks a lot, like he's, the most shut down corner in the league. And recently he had an interview where he just went through a list of quarterbacks and
he said Roethlisberger was average at best.
He just talked really low about a lot of quarterbacks, and I feel like that all of that highlights on him and all this stuff that he's been bringing up. I feel like that's led to them being drafted a little bit higher than they should be. I mean, a lot higher than they should be.
I mean, regardless, though, even if you knew who the number 1 defense was going to be, isn't the 6th round too early for a defense? Even if Jacksonville, you had a magic 8 ball and it told you, guarantee Jacksonville will be the best defense in the league. I can't get over the 6th round. Like that's.
No,
That's
Well, that's
absurd to me.
I would take them in the 11th round, the 14th round draft. That's where I would take them.
I was just gonna say, like I said, I think I would take them in the 10th round, and that'd be a reach. But
If you knew they were going
right, if I knew they were going to be number one defense, I would consider taking them probably 10th round. But no way in heck it'd be any more than the 10th round. And I think
it just shocks me.
It's really shocking to see them go. I think besides Josh Gordon going in the 4th round, that surprises me most out of this entire list, to be honest with you.
So,
I agree.
was there anybody else in the 6th round you guys wanted to touch upon? I know you guys are just kind of answering my question there about those two things.
Go ahead, Nick.
Mark Ingram. He's 6th round pick here. I would say I'm taking him in the 4th round.
Really?
He's suspended for 4 games. If he was not suspended at all, he would be a late 1st rounder, early 2nd rounder pick. So I'm going to pick that guy up. I'm going to have to deal with 4 rounds, 4 weeks. But when I get this guy in week 5, I'll take it every day.
You see a lot of upside in him, then obviously.
Absolutely. There are a lot of people who think that Peyton doesn't like him because he didn't give him the ball before Kamara was there. But that 1-2 punch is.
It's pretty deadly. It's
what they're going to do.
It's pretty deadly. I mean, it's a good 1-2 punch for sure. It's going to be tough for a team to stop that.
When he's back from the suspension, which of the 2 New Orleans running backs do you like more?
Oh, I will always like Kamara more.
Okay.
But, yeah, I'll take Mark Ingram in the 4th round, which is 2 rounds above where he's at, and just has him stashed. And if I had Kamara, I'm even more wanting it, because then I get.
I mean,
on a given week, one might lose more than the other, but I won't care because I'll get the total.
That's what I was just gonna say. You're guaranteeing yourself that as long as they do well on the run side of things, or even some receiving.
It's
side,
like you're going to get 40 points. One might get you 10. One might get you 30. They both might get you 20. Kind of.
Right.
Deal.
Which way it goes?
What about you, James? Anything you want to touch on?
No, I think that's pretty much it for this round. I mean, I'll touch a little bit on Sammy Watkins. I think he's not quite worth that value personally. I don't know. He seems so streaky to me. Like I feel like he has all the potential in the world to be extremely good and to have like breakout seasons every season, and he never does it. So I don't know. He's just always been a little bit of a disappointment to me. I've drafted him previously in years and just haven't really had the success with him that I expected to have. I don't know if you guys agree or not. But
No, I get that. I've never been a huge Watkins fan, even in the Buffalo days. So.
I agree completely. And I'm going to tie him up to Cook. I think 3 rounds above us or 4 rounds above us. Wide receivers who are really good, who change teams every other year, there's a problem.
yeah, no, I agree.
I don't know anything to do with them.
Yeah, they're a risk for sure.
All right, so that's it with the 6th round. I think we're going to do the 7th and 8th round, and then we're going to call it quits here. But moving on to the 7th round, one thing that kind of threw me off guard here was that Andrew Luck seems to be going in the 7th round, and it's like well above Matt Ryan, which I don't know if I can justify that. Maybe I'm not up to date on everything, but that kind of shocked me when Andrew Luck's going in the 7th and Matt Ryan is going in the 9th.
I'll touch on that a little bit here, actually. I think the reason, personally, why I see Andrew Luck going higher than Matt Ryan, per se, I don't think that he's going to have a better season than Matt Ryan. I don't think that he's going to get more points, personally. But he's going to play. And a lot of people are huge fans of Andrew Luck, and I'm a huge fan of Andrew Luck personally. I mean, the guy's
And one tackle weird, and he's done forever.
he's insanely good. And now I was just gonna say though, there's too much risk to draft him where he's being drafted. I don't think with him he hasn't thrown a football in a year and a half. You know what I mean? So realistically, I don't think that it's worth taking him there. I can see why people would take that risk because of the fact of like if he performs the way that he can and the way that he has, there's huge upside there.
I like Cousins more than him, and Cousins is going later than him. I don't know.
I definitely I wouldn't take him at all in the 7th round. But just to touch on why I see people doing it is I think it's because they see upside in it. It's too high for me though. I think that's way too risky. There's better, like you said, there's better quarterbacks still available before him. So why would you take that risk?
What do you think of Will Fuller, Dad?
I believe Will Fuller is going to be a weapon. I mean, I know he did really well when Deshaun Watson was there, but it was so touchdown dependent. So he scored 7 touchdowns and caught like 11 passes. So that's not sustainable.
Right.
So that's what people are like kind of remembering. And
I mean, he's definitely not the top receiver there, obviously. So he's not going to get all the attention. So I definitely have to agree that it's a little high probably for him. I think he's, like you said, a whack-a-mole for sure. 1 week he'll get you 15 to 20, but I could definitely see a couple of 5s or maybe even less points in there potentially. And I'm one of the fans of like I'd rather just get somebody that's going to get me 15 points every week than get me 20 and 5 the next. So as far as
the most important thing in fantasy football is consistency. You get the guy to give you around the same number of points every week, and you know what you're going to get. The 5s and 20s kill people.
Right. I'd have to agree 100% there. I think for me, I would definitely have to agree. Like getting the average is just it's the consistent player is the way to go. I guess looking at this round, I don't like Drew Brees personally. I think he'll have a good season, but I also think he's kind of at the end of his career, and I don't see that same Drew Brees arm that we're accustomed to seeing.
They were top 5 pass last year.
I just don't see it, dude. I mean, I know they were last year, and I just don't see it personally. I think there's going to be a drop off this season, and I could be completely wrong. It's one of those personal feelings, but I don't know. I guess we'll see. I like Randall Cobb in this round. I don't know that I would take him in this round, but I like where he's at in this round. I definitely think he's going to be like the 3rd option, obviously behind Adams and Graham. So it's tough to say. He's a good slot receiver, though. I think he'll get you your points. And then on those weeks that Adams doesn't get or gets too much attention from all those corners, maybe it'll open up Cobb for some points. But yeah, I definitely would say Drew Brees is the one I'm a little shaky on in this round. How do you feel on that, Nick?
This is the first time we're going to disagree.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I love Drew Brees here. I don't understand the hate for Drew Brees. I mean, yes, they went to a much more gun-oriented offense last year. But, Drew Brees threw for 5,000 yards for 3 straight years. And last year, he only threw for 4,200. And people think that's bad.
I mean, that's definitely not bad numbers.
And he threw 72% completion percentage. He set the new record. I love the hate for Drew Brees so I can get it way late.
So what you'd say is if he's sitting here in the 7th round and you don't get Watson in the 4th or what was it, 5th round?
5th round.
The 5th round, you'd consider taking Drew Brees here, or would you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
And again, Drew Brees' last season, who everybody really hates, was a very good season. 4,200 yards. The touchdowns were down. I don't know that. The interceptions were up. But those things, they go back and forth.
Yeah, I guess I didn't realize that he had such a good like completion percentage. I wasn't aware.
I didn't
of that.
know he set the record.
Yeah, that's something I didn't realize. I guess I was more looking at, like you kind of said, the touchdowns being down, interceptions being up. I don't know. I guess that's a very valid point I didn't think about.
So then, just moving on to the 8th and final round for us here today. For me, seems to be a couple more defenses comes off the board, which I disagree with still. I think the 8th is too early. I do personally like Cousins here. Am I wrong in thinking that? I think Cousins is going to have a good year, personally.
I'll let Nick go first on this.
Yes, I love Cousins. I love Cousins. I love Diggs. I love Thielen. And I love Rudolph. So, yeah, I'm loving it all. I'm loving Minnesota. I love the Minnesota defense.
Minnesota's going to win the division.
I have to definitely disagree with you on that.
I know why you disagree, but
You don't, though. You think it's because I'm just a Rodgers fan
Yeah.
and a Green Bay fan, and that's actually not the reason why I disagree with you. I do not see them going 13-3 again. I do not see their defense staying healthy like it did last year. They had like almost no injuries last season on defense. I think for sure they've already had, I want to say it's 6 injuries in the preseason alone on their defensive side. I personally see them going 9-7.
what do you want? A little friendly wager. What do you want to do?
Oh, I'd definitely put money on that. $20?
Just put it on the floor.
$20. I got
You guys heard it here first.
yeah, I got Minnesota. You can have the field
All right.
to win the division.
We're just on the
Yeah.
division. All right, that's fine.
All right,
That's
yeah.
fair enough. I definitely see the Packers winning the division as long as Aaron Rodgers stays healthy. I
If
think,
Cousin gets injured for the year by week 2, though.
yeah,
we
no,
call
I
it a
think
wash.
same thing
All
with
right.
Rodgers.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd have to agree with that. But I guess touching on Cousins, I like Cousins. I'm not saying I don't like Cousins. I think, like you kind of said, Nick. I mean, Thielen. I like Thielen. I like Diggs. I definitely like Rudolph. I guess in this round, personally, if I'm going to pick between Cousins or Ben Roethlisberger, I might take Roethlisberger personally. I think he's just going to get you an outrageous number of passing yards, probably a good amount of touchdowns. But I don't know. What do you feel? Would you rather have Cousins or would you rather have Roethlisberger?
That's a good question. I hadn't really run that through my mind yet, but that is absolutely a good question. I think I would have Roethlisberger because I know what I'm getting.
I was just going to say it's less risk for potentially the same reward.
Right.
Yeah, I'll give you that. He's been proven.
I mean, the dude
Puts
throws,
up the numbers
yeah, I was
every
just
year.
Gonna say I think he's one of like I think it's less than 10 quarterbacks to throw for over 500 yards in a game. So I just think there's the potential that you just know he's going to do well, and I think Schuster's going to have a better year this year. I think Antonio Brown's going to put up the same kind of numbers. I think Le'Veon Bell could have a really good year. Obviously, he wants to prove to the rest of the league that he's worth the kind of money that he's asking for. So he's going to have a good season. If he has a terrible season, he ain't going to get no money. So it'll be interesting. But between those two quarterbacks, if they're in the same round and they're both available, I would take Roethlisberger personally. I just wanted to obviously touch on that. Edelman is in this round. I actually think that's a good spot for him. I think he has really good upside. Obviously, he's out the first 4 games, I believe it is.
Yeah.
But I think at that spot, I think it's a good pick. If you can get him right around the 100 mark, I think he's a top 100 player for sure, in my opinion. But I think if you can get him, he's proven to be one of Tom Brady's more favorable receivers. And as long as Hogan doesn't outshine in the first 4 games, I think Edelman will continue to be his favorite receiver, leading to him getting all the touchdowns, in my opinion, besides Gronk, obviously. I'd assume you agree with that, Nick. I'm not obviously going to say for sure.
I
But
agree with that times 10 because Edelman, like Ingram, is that's the guy I'm telling you that I would take. This is round 8. I'm taking Edelman in round 6 just to make sure I get it. And so I'm going to take Ingram in round 4, and I'm going to take Edelman in round 6, and I'm going to be a little bit hamstrung. I fully admit it for the first 4 weeks. So if I can somehow go 2-2, once we get to week 5, I'm going to dominate.
yeah, I was just going to say, if you can somehow get through the first 4 weeks with like somehow being 500, I mean, even if you go 1-3, as long as they put up the kind of seasons that I have a feeling they're going to put up, I think you'll have a really good chance of making those losses up for sure. And I think, like you said, if you can somehow go 2-2, I mean, I think you're paving the way for an insanely good season. Those might be 2 of your 3 or 4 losses you total end up getting, if any. After that, I think you'll have a extremely good offense with those 2 once they come back.
And that's kind of the aces and the holes. And that's my draft plan for this year. That's exactly what I'm planning on doing.
I like that. You actually draft this Friday coming up, right?
That is correct.
You're gonna have to let us know how that all turned out for you, and if you're happy with it or
Yeah, next week we'll have to do one of these. But either way, thanks for being a part of this one again. I liked a lot of your points, and I think you obviously know what you're talking about.
You bring a lot to it, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, it was my pleasure. I really am, just glad that you invited me into this, and I hope everybody has a good night.
All right, guys. Well, I'm James.
And I'm Chris. Thanks for tuning in to another Uniquely Every podcast. Take it easy.
Have a good one, guys.